Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the More Than Medicine interview series by Courage Canvas, where we explore how health and healing extend beyond hospitals and prescriptions, but also into areas like education, belonging, identity, and community. My name is Claire Xiao, and I'm the founder of the 501c3 youth-led nonprofit Courage Canvas. And today we are super excited to be joined by Mr. Aric Hamilton. And before we begin, I'd love to briefly introduce him to our audience. Aric Hamilton serves as the Director of Student Services and Alumni Relations at the University of Missouri St. Louis College of Optometry. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in History, American Studies, and Education, and a Master of Arts in Higher Education and Student Affairs Administration from St. Louis University. A dynamic, student-centered practitioner, Aric brings a holistic and equity-minded approach to student affairs, rooted in the belief that every student deserves a sense of belonging, purpose, and possibility. Grounded in principles of inclusive excellence, he plays a critical role in cultivating affirming environments and developmental experiences for applicants, students, and alumni at UMSL College of Optometry, bridging access, support, and lifelong engagement. Aric's professional foundation includes prior service in student affairs and academic affairs roles at the St. Louis University School of Medicine and School of Law. As an undergraduate student, he was deeply involved in campus leadership and advocacy, ultimately making institutional history as the first Black male elected student government president at St. Louis University. His contributions were honored with induction into the St. Louis University Student Hall of Fame and the 2025 Emerging Leader Award from the St. Louis University Black Alumni Association. Aric's work is animated by a deep commitment to social justice, student development, and relational leadership. He remains passionate about empowering students to thrive academically, develop their identities, and become agents of change in their communities and professions. Wow. So many things. Mr. Hamilton, your work centers on student development, access, equity, belonging, especially within the healthcare education space. And we are so grateful to have your perspective with us today. And I'd love to just start out by learning more about your work and how you see your role. So, my first question is, could you briefly describe your work and the spaces you operate in?
Well, one, thank you for such the warm welcome, Claire, and for inviting me on to this interview. So very happy to be with you today. Um, I kind of describe my work as I see myself as empowering folks to reach their dream. Many people, they dream for years and years, and I'm in the optometry field. I've also worked in traditional medicine, that they can be healing arts, that their hands can be tools for healing, whether that is diagnosing a disease, whether that is identifying an area where someone can improve in their health, or just really contributing to their life as healthcare professionals. Um, so when I think about the work that I operate in, I say it's the full life cycle of a healthcare professional. Someone transitioning from undergrad, kind of figuring out what do I do next? I've earned my bachelor's, I've got my associate's degree, and I want to make an impact. I want to impact the healthcare field, but I don't know exactly where my passion is and where my alignment is. So I work with people across the board. Sometimes it's people who are PA, PT, nursing, kind of wherever, to help them kind of discern where can they make the greatest impact and where does that align with their passion and purpose. Um, then once they matriculate into a program, once, through the admissions process, how do you sustain yourself through the rigor and the challenge that comes with developing into becoming a healthcare practitioner at the doctoral level? Okay, now you're preparing to graduate, you've graduated, you're in the field. How can you invest your time, talent, and treasure to support and develop the next generation of folks in your field? It's kind of three-pronged in the way that I see my work and how I operate in that space.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much for sharing about all the work you do. And I'm sure we have audience members as well who maybe have an interest in the health related fields, but maybe they're interested in leadership or education or a bunch of different areas and they're not exactly sure what exactly or who they want to be. So definitely for those audience members, I'm sure this interview will be very helpful for them. All right, and when people think about health, they often think about hospitals or doctors. From your perspective, what aspects of health or healing are most overlooked?
Thank you, because that's such a good question. And particularly in the space that I work in. I work in optometric education. And you wouldn't believe how many times, when I kind of tell folks, oh, I work in optometry, and they're like, oh, yeah, ophthalmology. I'm like, no, no, ophthalmology is a very important specialty within traditional medicine. But on the outskirts of that, who is duly noted as a healthcare partner, we have the optometrist. And I always have to kind of do the breakdown. You go to your dentist for your cleaning, but then you go to the orthodontist for your oral surgery. Same thing with optometry. They are your primary eye care physicians. And I think that oftentimes we kind of think of the health of the eye as kind of the secondary piece. Oh, I may go get my vision checked every, I don't know, 5 years instead of that annual checkup. Um, but our eyes tell us so much about how we're doing. We can determine if someone has diabetes. We can determine if someone is dealing with a very chronic health illness. If I was here with one of my colleagues, they would tell you that we have patients all the time who, when we are examining, doing a comprehensive eye exam, that we can realize due to the way that their blood vessels are fluctuating that they're about to have a stroke or a heart attack. So when we think about the eyes being a portal to the body, I always say that it's care for the whole body through the eyes. I like how to frame, that's how I frame optometry. That we care about holistic well-being, but we just see it through the eyes. And sometimes when we don't take care of those other parts of our body, if we don't go to the dentist, if we don't, because it's all, and it's an access issue, and it's also just not ingrained in our culture in America to fully do that. We can miss out on some very important, vital aspects of what we're doing. So when I think about health and when I think about healing, it's sometimes the parts that are least obvious to us where we really can have the most gain and benefit. Um, there are studies out there that show that people go to the optometrist age better because they are able to get frames earlier on and they don't have the intensity of squinting earlier on and vision decline, which contributes to other factors in aging. So there's a lot of comorbidities that are associated with taking care of yourself and taking care of your eyes. So um, when I think about health or healing, I'm like, if you take care of these kind of external features that we kind of let go sometimes or not don't have that focus on beyond the primary care visit, if we even do those, um, you really can put yourself on the journey to holistic well-being.
Yeah, for sure. That was a wonderful response. And I definitely agree. I think our perspective is such an important part. And here at Courage Canvas, our whole mission is kind of like healing beyond medicine. And in our various programs, we strive to bring healing, whether that's emotional healing, mental health, the artistic, or the communication side, to youth and patients all over the globe. All right. And my next question is, have you seen examples from your work where education, communication, or systems have made a meaningful difference in people's well-being?
Absolutely. I think it cannot be understated just how important it is to be embedded in communities where access to healthcare is limited. Particularly in my scope of work, our clinics are located all in areas that are considered eye care deserts. And having that direct connection to primary care, serving folks who often don't see a primary care physician or dentist, that we are able to not only support them in their vision needs, but get them connected to resources so they can holistically meet the needs of their body. Um, and I think when you have the right people and you have the right systems in place, we can better catch that safety net to promote health and well-being of our patients. That said, when we don't have that intersection, when we don't have that collaboration, when we don't have that what I call interprofessional excellence, that interweaving of the different health professions together that all wrap around and support the whole person, there's kind of that breakdown in that person's well-being. And when we think about the complexity of how people show up and complexity of our needs, we need that full care team. And when that care team's not aligned, when those systems aren't aligned, when there are breakdowns in communication, when there are silos in terms of information being shared, it can be really drastic. There was a patient that we had very recently who came in who had vision issues, but really they broke down to the conditions that they were living in. And us connecting with the social service sector to ensure that they had a stable place to live and with clean water and consistent heat and shelter, and just how much of a difference that made in them being able to improve their vision care needs and their holistic health. But those systems bouncing together to, protect and create that safety net for a person. You don't have that. I mean, that's where the challenges come in. So I see that as kind of like those small wins that you don't see them on the news. They're not always out in the media. But it's those small wins where you can see that person start to have that glimmer of hope. You start to see them crack a smile over time. You see that joy radiate in their eyes. And um, I think that's perhaps one of the biggest meaningful differences that I've observed in my time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for sharing. I definitely agree. I think systems are so powerful and they definitely can shape outcomes in the healthcare space. And definitely here at Courage Canvas, we, as I mentioned, strive in our various programs, like, for example, our Delivering Hope program, where we bring cards and crafts to patients in the hospital. And just like you said, we can see them like crack a smile or just light up when we enter the room. And it's just so nice to see where we bring different perspectives and different sides of the issue to the problem. So thank you so much. And my next question is, was there a moment in your career that greatly shifted your perspective about community impact?
Hmm. It's a great one. Um, I think about when I first observed our students, we created a partnership with the Rittner School District for their Husky Healthcare, which is a school-based health clinic. And we have launched a bilingual um, ice screening where our students go out and support the Rittner School District and specifically the Spanish-speaking population of the Rittner School District to ensure that their vision care needs are being met. So we will do a screening, and if we detect something, we'll take them and refer them over to our clinic for a comprehensive eye exam. Um, and I was thinking about just the incredible stories I heard from several of the students, many of whom are first generation immigrants to our country, just navigating the challenges of systems, their family navigating the challenges of gaining access to healthcare, and many of whom who had never had um, an eye screening in the US, nonetheless, in their previous journeys, um, to finally detect so many of these issues that have been impacting them in their ability to not only transition to the country, but navigate the school system. A student who we found out had floaters, a student who we found out was actually colorblind. And by not, if we had not had this program and this partnership, how long would they have kind of gone through the system trying to make it just kind of with that engine light on? Um, I think that shifted my notion about community impact, and I think that it shifted my notion in the sense of where we all stand in that. Because I'm not a healthcare practitioner, right? I support them in reaching their dreams and navigating that journey. Um, but to see how being a part of this partnership and supporting the facilitation of this partnership um, really allowed for us to make a transformational impact that we can't monitor in dollars and cents. And when I think about contributions to humanity and being about our public mission, I mean, what a greater way than to think about just how critical the little things and the little work that we do, those little nuances can pay dividends in improving someone's quality of life.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. It's just like, I think, like a ripple effect. Like, definitely just by our small daily actions or even just small acts of kindness can ripple into amazing, great effects that really benefit our community. So, thank you so much for sharing that story. That was really powerful. My next question is, what role does storytelling and human connection play in shaping our happiness and well-being?
Oh my goodness, I could belabor about this for days. So I will try to keep it brief in my response, but I think that storytelling is the art of sharing the human experience ultimately, right? If we don't have storytelling, we don't understand the nuance and depth that comes with peopling and humaning. Um, and human connection is just such an important piece of it. We are built to be connected. We are built to be in community, and we are built to be social with one another. And so when I think about from a systems level, before we get to the micro, but thinking about the macro of, what are the conditions that foster happiness and well-being? That stability of community, that is values, that is that foundation of warmth that we're tethered together. Um, and I think that there is so much that we can do. There's so much opportunity in creating narratives that foster this well-being and center healing and center all the good that exists in the world. Um, it's so easy to get downtrodden and all the negativity out there, and then just all the strife that exists, and the doom and gloom that exists. But I think if you live your life as an optimist, and I think if you live your life as someone who's truly centered in the work of well-being, um, we know that the power of storytelling can fill our cups in ways that nothing else can. A bubble bath can't do it, a run can't do it, a walk can't do it, purchasing that favorite clothing item can't do it. Um, but being filled here in your heart by just the warm and touching moments of humanity, I think those are just intricate and so critical in understanding just how we shape our own individual at the micro level dimension of happiness and well-being, but also being able to foster space and community for that at the macro.
Yes, for sure. I think that definitely, just as you said, we're all human beings. We're all meant to be social with one another. And I think that the sense of community and belonging, compassion, connection all play such a big role in our growth as a society and our overall well-being. So I definitely agree with that. All right, my next question is, what do you wish students interested in healthcare or science understood earlier about the human side of this work?
This is a good one, and I talk to applicants a lot about this. You're a person first. And I always like to center that you're a person first, a student second, and then, a student of this discipline third. And the reason why I say that is if you can center your own humanity in engaging with the work, your identity, your intersection, where you stand in systems with this work, you'll be even much better in being a clinician, being of service to community. Um, Being a morally and ethically sound person and engaging in that because there are a whole bunch of people in this world who are very smart and very critically engaged in science and healthcare, but if you don't have that roundly shaped moral and ethical compass, you could use that knowledge and tools for not so good things. um, and sometimes it's not even intentional, right? Sometimes it's implicitly baked in just to the way that how we're socialized and how we developed. um, so I really want folks to put their own humanity in. And I think that there's a level of humility that you have to embrace that. And I think you have to think individually on your journey of that. That means you have to understand those who are different than you. You have to work to be culturally competent. You have to work to understand the complexities of science and healthcare and work to understand where there have been errors in the past by those who've engaged in healthcare and science work and in the STEM fields where they have maybe implicitly or explicitly harmed people with the knowledge and operating in their field, and how do we advance healthcare and science in a matter with reciprocity with those who are on the outside angle, who are on the other end of that transaction. I think that's so critical, and I think that if you approach this work with a holistic mindset, with a value for all the disciplines, the liberal arts and humanities, um, you will be so much better in being able to see how science and healthcare don't exist in just a silo, but truly in a vacuum of the systems of oppression that operate in this world, to the way in which our history, we can't remove history from science and healthcare and how folks have navigated these systems. And by having a strategic awareness and a fulfilled awareness, you're able to approach this work with all sincerity.
Yes, I definitely wholeheartedly agree with that. I think it's so important to have, like you said, a well-rounded perspective. And I know there's kind of this debate out there between like soft skills and hard skills, and definitely you shouldn't have one without the other. Both are super important. And kind of like similar to what you mentioned, the soft skills, the human connection, the compassion is what makes us human and allows us to carry those hard skills and apply them and create great benefit for the community. All right, and my final question is kind of tying back to the start when I kind of mentioned our audience, we definitely have younger students and the younger generation who maybe are interested in a very similar profession as you or would like to explore something similar. And we would love to hear what advice would you give to the younger generation to contribute to health and healing?
Mhm. I would say number one, don't be afraid to be unorthodox and don't be afraid to be outside of the box in kind of your own journey. I never thought when I was in high school or, in college that I'd be in this role or doing this sort of work. I thought, I was like, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to be a social studies teacher, call it a day, do my 25 years and retire. Um, and I think being open and consistently curious about the world around you will lead you to opportunities in ways that you just can never imagine. Um, I think that always kind of aligning yourself, how can I be of service to others, no matter where you kind of land professionally and academically, allows you the space to do that. On paper, you may not be like, oh, well, how does your work contribute to health and healing? Well, I'm supporting those in their development towards fostering health and healing of our communities. I'm fostering that in their own space, in their academic journeys, that they have that person to talk to and think about it on a personal level, how they're managing and taking care of themselves. Um, so whether you are like, oh, I want to be the biochemist or the brain surgeon, you have a lane and you can figure out where in that lane that's aligned to your passion and purpose where you can advance it. Um, and you have to have a spirit of discernment to be able to do that. Sometimes it takes a minute to get there. It's not always going to come to you, but I think by being intellectually curious and being open-minded and kind of being open to where the journey takes you and take some what I would call very strategic risk and opportunity. Um, you can ultimately work to contribute in both directions.
Yes, I definitely agree. I think myself, when I was in middle school or younger, I pretty much had no idea what I wanted to do, and I definitely wouldn't have thought I would be interested in the nonprofit work I'm doing now or the healthcare related work I'm doing. So definitely, I'm sure our audience will take away your advice and apply it to their own lives. And Mr. Hamilton, I want to say a huge thank you for all of your time, for sharing your heartwarming stories and your perspective. And conversations like this remind us that healing doesn't only happen in clinical spaces, it also happens through belonging, leadership, mentorship, and community. We truly appreciate the work you do in empowering students to find purpose and possibility. Is there anything else you would like to add on?
All I would say is just everyone continue to be you and be authentically yourself and show up as authentically as yourself. And when you do that and you stand by that, I think that doors open for you. And I think that opportunities open up for you divinely, no matter what that may mean for you, whether that is religiously, spiritually, or lack thereof. Um, by keeping that open mind and an open heart and moving with pure intentions, that you'll make a positive impact and a ripple effect in our society.
Yes, thank you so much for your words of wisdom and advice. And again, thank you for your time and perspective. And we hope our audience will tune in for our other episodes of More Than Medicine.